Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Monday Motivation.
Wait, do it one more time. We got the intern.
Come on, Isaac, let's go. Monday
Motivation. That's going to be replayed. Dario
is going to have a field day with that.
All right.
Let's move on. We're moving on.
Micah, take care of all this in post, hopefully. We'll make this look
Drop some hot beats whenever he says anything.
But anyway, so what we wanted to talk about today is furthering your education and continuing to invest in yourself. And I've been reading Gary Keller's book, so shout out to Gary Keller, but a passive one because, of course, he represents some of our competition over at Keller Williams. But we'll still give him the love. We'll give him the love. That's true. What they do, what we do, they can't touch. Yeah. But regardless, when he talks about the way to strategize and build your business, he says, number one is get your mindset right. Get that millionaire mindset.
Check.
Number two, go make $1 million.
Check.
Number three,
not check.
Go net $1 million.
Shit. What?
Number four, keep $1 million.
Oh, that's the hardest one.
It gets harder and harder as it goes on.
After you net the million, you're like, okay, now it's reckless time. And
right.
You're buying houses, cars, and then it's over.
Yeah, number two is definitely the hardest step for most people, I'd say. Getting that millionaire mindset, though, is extremely, extremely important, and continuing to invest in yourself. And the way I kind of look at it is if there's something propelling you all the time. You're waking up, you're going to work, you're doing whatever you're doing to try and further yourself personally, financially, whatever the case may be. And if the direction that you're lined up in isn't the right direction, as you continue to go, you're getting pushed further and further off course. So I think we know a lot of people who have, kind of done something along the lines of, they're working at a job that they thought was going to be a short-term job, and they've been there for 5, 6, 7, 8 years, and now
10 years later,
right, it's really difficult for them to transition and get back. Whereas if they would have kind of started on that correct path, they'd probably be a lot further along, and they wouldn't have a lot of the difficulties. Then there's a learning curve. So his point is, when you're setting up your business, learn, educate yourself, make sure you understand everything that you need to do, make sure that your mindset is there, that your motivation is there before you take off on your course. It doesn't need to be perfect, but you should have an idea of what you're trying to accomplish and what it takes to get there. And while you're on the path, you need to be constantly refining and adjusting your path, just like you would if you're trying to fly an airplane.
So does he talk about constant learning and the importance of constant, always being a student or
I'm only 3 chapters in, so probably.
Oh, okay. Yes, right.
but that was one of the initial points in the book. I just started that one.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, they look at it from, hey, I learned something, and that's the end goal. Like, I learned how to use QuickBooks, for example, and then you end there. But that's when you can't, and you have to keep pushing forward. You want to go just beyond that one skill or trade or something new that you've learned, and you want to just continue to consume information. Your brain will not overload. You will not fill up the capacity.
No, and it gets easier. It gets easier as you get better at learning. You can learn things faster. And if you've mastered something, I think it's much easier to master something else.
Yeah, I like the phrase, the millionaire mindset. And to me, it doesn't only apply to the actual $1 million figure, but we're just using that phrase as kind of the monument that we're going to put, attach success to, where you have a certain type of mindset that begets, your happiness, that begets your
an above average result. Yeah.
Right, and how to get into that millionaire mindset in order to go to those, was it 4 checklist items?
Yes, exactly.
The mindset, the net, and then keeping it.
Right. And I mean, the one really easy way, I'm giving a plug, even though we're not really working with them in any capacity.
It's all good, man.
But
spread the love.
Audible is such a great resource.
I love Audible. What do you mean? Right? We're plugging Audible. If you're listening to this and you want to send some free stuff towards VSM Real Estate, just send an address to Goran, not Daniel, because he wasn't willing to plug you.
They sell audiobooks, so they don't really mail that.
You can get Audible credits, so you can get books.
And they send you those in the mail and address them to people?
No, via email, like in a code. I gotta figure out. I get these. I know.
Totally. And but realistically, it's what are they? It's like $10 a month.
I believe I pay like $16 or
Something
I don't know.
like
Between $10 and $20 is what.
Some relatively nominal fee for what you get out of it.
I don't spend just that. I usually go through probably 3 books a month. So I add to that.
At the gym, that kind of stuff.
Right. At car, gym, or just, whatever. You can just be listening to audiobooks or, listening to your phone at pretty much any time. I don't do it at work, but there's so many other hours in a day where I could just be listening to audiobooks. And sometimes it's 10 minutes, but sometimes it's like 2 hours.
No question.
And it goes by quick. My current book, might as well, since we're on that.
Pull them up.
I'm going to pull it up. It's long, that's why I can't remember. The Innovators, How a Group of Hackers, Geniuses, and Geeks Created the Digital Revolution by Walter Isaacson. And he was the author of Steve Jobs' book, which I've went through, and that was just a fantastic read or listen. And the guy that wrote it, he's just very, very well-versed individual when it comes to this stuff. And the book takes you kind of 150 years back into today's age when it comes to technology and computers. It's really interesting. Highly recommend it.
Yeah, and that's just one easy example of ways to be able to constantly be furthering your education. Podcasts are a great example as well. Podcasts, audio.
Monday Motivation.
Right.
Always plug.
I easily get through one book per month in addition to whatever else I'm reading, just driving, because I'm driving all the time, looking at properties. It's just pure value. And any book that's really written, especially in the business world, is kind of a consolidation of one person's entire life experience, one successful person. So if you can digest those and continue to, learn from their strategies, they've already built the path. You might as well take it. And,
I just mentioned this one book, 150 years of this accumulative knowledge of these like thousands of individuals condensed into 22 hours. I mean, if they had 150 years to put all this together, I think you probably can find 22 hours to listen to the entire thing.
And it's worth it. And, I think there's no excuse to not be furthering your education.
Absolutely. It's one step closer to get you to that right mindset. And in this case, the millionaire mindset to actually get you to through the checklist. And one thing that you did just a few minutes ago, as I was walking to my office, Daniel was like, "Hey, you want to go to LA for this seminar for commercial real estate?" I'm like, "Let me think about it." And I walked into my office and I had an email invite from you, and I was like, "Did you already buy it?" He was like, "Yep, I'm on it. I need to go there." The decision was made within 15 seconds, but it's not just because you want to go to LA or if you want to go to California. It has to do with the fact that you want to further your millionaire mindset. You want to get all those check boxes marked.
What really happened is that Rafiq Moore told me to do it. And I said, this guy knows a lot more about this than I do. So
Shut out Rafiq.
And then immediately did it. And I think it's important to have someone like that who you also really trust their guidance on. Hey, I've already had these experiences. I think this is a good thing to add to your arsenal, to add to your understanding. So I'm really excited for it. I'm trying to find one more. I'll probably rope someone from VSM into going.
I think this guy will go if we pay for him to go anywhere, right?
Oh yeah, I would. If we're going to LA, anything.
You're going to be the video documenter guy.
Yeah, that would actually be a very cool video if we went and documented that whole thing.
All right, well, we might have to do that. We'll see. I'm going to actually
be continued.
Yeah, I'm going to see what it's all about. I'm going to connect with Rafiq. I know I'm actually meeting with him on Tuesday, but he does that a lot, and I appreciate it. I always tell him, like, hey, if you find something that's of value, give me a call. And he does that, and he actually practices what he preaches. He flies all over the world, the country, to go to different seminars, different speaking events to further his knowledge. And, I think for the most part, he's got a lot of those check marks checked, but he's always wanting more, which is what I appreciate. And I think you do too.
Yeah, no, and I also really appreciate the fact that he's willing to I kind of just bothered him today and just sent him a text message. And I'm like, a couple weeks back you were talking about this. What was that again? Can you send me the info to that? And he's like, sure, here it is. Boom, sends it over.
I think
save me $300 too. Thanks.
A really good point on going back to Rafiq is when we were at his house the other day, he was talking about the commercial academy, and he's like, he did it, and he's in his 40s. He's like,
is he?
He's 37.
Yeah, he's 37. But he's on the tail end of his career. He's like, I'm living the dream, and he's still
tail end of his career. Is 37.
That's what he said. That's what he said. He's like,
I don't know if I can save you from this one.
I'm continuing He's like, I'm continuing learning. Like, he's not stopping. Like, he's.
Dude, you're gonna be dealing with the Kazakh mafia after this.
Yeah,
they're coming for you.
I'm sorry, Rafiq.
All right, we'll see if we can buy your life now.
Yeah. But anyway, no, I'm super excited, and I think it's great to have someone like Isaac in here who's an 18-year-old, because obviously your entire life has just been furthering your education. And, it really is, when you spend all of high school is just preparing yourself for the real world. And I think what Isaac's doing is really smart as well, because he's going to college, and at the same time he's working with VSM and getting a little bit more real world perspective to be able to take to college, getting some college perspective, taking it to VSM. Right. So I think there's going to be a lot of synergy and ability for him to make really, really informed decisions about what's important and how best to proceed going forward. When you're young, it's really, really easy to continue to educate yourself. You're used to being a student. By the time you're, like Goran's age, for example, and that's not an old joke, but by the time you're, 30 plus, something like that.
I'm 34, but all right, yeah. Go ahead.
I was being generous.
I'm nowhere near Rafiq, but hey.
But anyway, it becomes hard. You're not used to being the student, especially when you're in a leadership position. You're used to being the leader, and you have to step back and either humble yourself, be introspective enough to say, these are my weak areas. This is what I need to learn more and more about. For me, an example is something that I think that I need to learn more about, and something else that I'm pursuing an active interest in and taking more classes in is managing people. And it's not something that a lot of people...
Well, they say that you manage yourself and you lead others. So a lot of that has to do with being, on the level within yourself and how you approach other people.
When Goran said that, he suddenly appeared to be wearing a smoking jacket and had a nice highball. Yeah, exactly. But regardless, I think that's something that I would like to learn more about and put more effective strategies in place. So after I go to LA, hopefully we can go to somewhere cool as well and learn something about.
No, I think that's going to be kind of something that's coming down the pipeline. I know we talked a lot about our new office space and all this and where we're going to go. That decision is made from so many different angles, and cost is one part, but then also it's like, is this space going to be beneficial, not just to our customers, but is it going to be beneficial to all of the people that are within the space? And what type of productivity level and creativity level are we going to get by being in a space, considering that we're here 8+ hours a day, and most people are. So when we're selecting, that's something that we think about. It's not just about the actual dollar figure. It's about what comes after that. And we definitely want to kind of further what you're doing and promote that everyone go to, events like this that better whatever part of the business
even
they're
if you're
in.
An investor, if you're a client, it's good to learn. So learn more about investing, learn more about everything.
It's not, maybe not now, but maybe in the future we'll able to, fly people all over the world so they can ingest all this information. But until then, you might have noticed that we did last week or the week before, we had Jeff Peterson, Professor 1031.
Shout out Jeff.
Shout out Jeff. We had a great event.
We should have recorded that.
But, shoulda, woulda, coulda, right? That was a drive.
Next time. Marshall's coming.
So next time or next Thursday, hopefully you guys are signed up for our new guest, which is Marshall Saunders.
One of my absolute favorites.
Yeah, the Facebook or the event is on Facebook where you can sign up. The space is limited. We can probably accommodate max 25 to 30 people.
We have 18 people signed up.
We have 18 so far. So if you haven't and you want to, please sign up. You're going to learn a ton for Marshall. And if you want to learn a little bit about, who he is, you can Google him. But the punchline is really that, he basically sold his half of RE/MAX results about 7 years ago. So he has a huge background in real estate, creating a business around it, and venturing to other things, more specifically real estate investments. So it's going to be a great event. And to go back into what I was saying is, I want to be able to bring an event like that to not just our office, but also be accessible to other people within our profession, also the general public, on a weekly basis. And the new potential office space is going to allow us to do bigger and better things. And then one step further is, Isaac is going to have all of the gear ready to go Facebook Live. So we're going to be able to broadcast to everyone on the internet, if they can make it, this entire live event. And beyond that, we're going to have an actual live Q&A. Everybody, not just in the studio, but also outside, where they can say, hey, you said something about, whatever. Can you, give me a little bit more clarification? So that's coming down the pipeline as well.
And that's the best because, when I first meet an investor client now, the first thing that I say is, up front, my goal is to educate you. So, you don't need to get to my level of knowledge because you have a day job that prevents you from spending as much time in the industry as I do. But I want you to understand as much as possible, and I want you to understand some concepts so you can look at a deal, give it the smell test, and analyze whether or not it's a viable purchase. So realistically, in my opinion, in my estimation, the first deal that I do with people, I break even on because the amount of time that I'm putting into it is it's a lot, and I have a high value on my time right now.
As though you should.
And I think I think it's absolutely worth it because I think showing that level of care, respect, not only it's going to make your transaction so much smoother in the future as well. And people, when you're informed, making a decision is a lot easier.
Right, and it goes to the entire transaction being a success for both parties. Doesn't matter if you're buying or selling. You're truly walking away with, everything that you want based on the fact that you were aware of what was going on. A lot of disagreements or, when negotiations are, not progressing as they should is because of one side not understanding the other. The deal might be great, but it's the lack of understanding. So that's what we definitely we try to do every single day, and that's what we want to just bring to the next level. So I'm really excited for him, Marshall Saunders, to be yet another guest, but also to have a back-to-back every week, one guest, and we can have eventually like 100 people a week in this center, our new office where we are, that we can also broadcast on Facebook to share that knowledge, which would then empower everyone that wants to interact with us, to do any type of real estate. And it does work. You have a ton of clients who ingest all of our things, like the podcast, all the content, and they talk to you like, hey, in vlog XYZ, you talked about this. Can you give me a little bit more information? And you're like, yeah, no problem. Let's jump into that. So it gives people your accessibility on their time. What happens when they call you or email you, don't pick up right away. That's where this can, be a great resource.
I think it's also a good resource too because it gives people an idea of what you're like, what you're about, how you actually behave, and they get the sense of knowing you a little bit more than they normally would before they actually have that first meeting, which is nice.
Yeah, I think so too. It especially in your case, and also when I do a lot of the Instagram or the social media, yes, we do all of the walkthroughs of the finished products, but what about the people? Daniel is not a serious person. He likes to joke and have fun, but he likes to also he likes to close deals. So it gives you that broad perspective of who a person is, which I think me as a buyer, I want to make sure that I'm communicating with another human, not a robot, and see what they're all about.
Well, and to give more credit back to Rafiq, when the last time we were speaking with him again, he mentioned a very simple concept that information is extremely valuable, and access to that information first is equally valuable. The example being, this house is going up for sale and it's $100,000 under market. That's a good thing to know. The first person who knows that is going to likely profit. In the same vein, the more you can educate yourself and understand what your rehab costs are, what your after repair value might be, stuff like that. Like if you can look at a project and know for a fact that you're going to make $50,000 by investing $50,000, the odds of you taking that are pretty high.
Yes. 100%.
Whereas, right, depends on the time frame, right? Yep. Whereas if the deal is you can invest $50,000 and you might make 100, you might lose 50, it's more difficult to pull the trigger. You have incomplete information. So doing everything that you can to fill out whatever gaps, to remove as many variables so you have complete information and you have it fast and you have it faster than anybody else Wall Street, great example, right? We're going to move all of our computer banks closer so they trade at 1 microsecond faster than everybody else's.
Or we're going to just have all of our trades executed by the computer, not somebody typing in on a keyboard.
Right. It's, speed of information. So
especially now, that's what I think is huge in any business, especially our business. You mentioned that if someone calls you and say, hey, you're the first person I called, this house is 100K under market price, what do you want to do? If you don't have the necessary information that you need to make a decision, then you're going to be passed up, or you're just going to be passing on the deal and somebody else is going to get it. So you owe it to yourself to be as informed as possible and, to get that information so you recognize what the actual deal is.
Yeah, no question. So Isaac, thank you for being here. Always learning. Always
am.
Yeah.
He's not asleep, folks. He's here.
But anyway, keep learning, and we'll see you guys next week.